Haunted Masonic Lodge, our most intense paranormal activity ever. The temple is a massive Gothic building located across from Cass Park at the intersection of 2nd Avenue and Bagg Street, later renamed Temple Street. Inside, there's a sizable church, multiple chapels, 2 chic ballrooms, lodging options, a library, an enormous drill hall, and a 4,000-seat theater with the city's largest professional stage. It was intended to hold more than 40 separate Masonic lodges. George D. Mason was the building's architect and creator. 1856 saw the birth of George G. Mason in Syracuse, New York. His family moved to Detroit in 1870. He started working with the local architect Hugh Smith in 1875. He moved swiftly to work for Henry T. Bush's firm, taking on projects like the Ransom Gills House, the Detroit Public Library, and the George O. Robinson House. Mason and Zachariah Rice founded Mason & Rice in 1878 when Mason left the company. Albert Kahn, who would go on to become another well-known Detroit architect, was employed by the company from 1884 to 1896. After Mason & Rice was dissolved in 1898, Mason carried on by himself and founded Mason & Company, constructing the Masonic. Mason went solo and went on to construct important structures in Detroit, including the Herman Kiefer Hospital, Detroit Yacht Club, and Pontchartrain Hotel. At this time, Detroit was seeing an increase in interest in Masonic fraternities, and the city's existing club spaces were insufficient to accommodate the burgeoning membership. The fraternity hired Mason to design the structure after purchasing a plot of land on Temple Street, originally Bagg Street. On Thanksgiving Day of 1920, Mason began construction of the temple. In 1922, George Washington used the troll, a symbol commonly associated with Freemasons, to lay the first bricks at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. The structure was formally consecrated and made public in 1926. Dispelling the myths. Rumors abound regarding the enigmatic nature of the Freemasons, the Masonic fraternity for which the temple was constructed. However, there is a persistent myth concerning the architect of the biggest Masonic temple globally, which is loud enough for us historians to be aware of. There are numerous rumors, some of which have even appeared in news outlets, that George Mason overspent on the temple's construction, forcing him into bankruptcy. It's even rumored that his wife left him as a result of it. According to the account, Mason committed suicide by plunging to the top of the 210-foot structure, upset by the loss of both his wife and his finances. Guards, docents, and even event-goers sensationalized the story by saying they see Mason's ghost hiding and stealing objects, closing windows, and mounting the steps to his death. Although the story would make a fantastic Halloween horror fiction, it is untrue. At the age of 91, George Mason passed away in 1948 at his residence in the Grand Boulevard Wilshire apartment complex. Perhaps because of its imposing size dominating the neighborhood, or the fact that it was built for a hidden society, ghost stories about the Masonic Temple resurface every Halloween. Furthermore, even though there may be ghosts concealed in the 1,037 chambers, we won't be the ones to confirm it. Charles Spratley's A Ghostly History of Historic Lodges. During my Old Town Orange tour, if we start early, or if I get a sudden inspiration from God, I tell my guests a little tale about the Haunting Masonic Lodge located in the plaza area above the Chase Bank branch. The lodge's residents report hearing noises in the silence of the structure that shouldn't be there or seeing shadowy figures. Numerous members of Orange Grove Lodge number 293 hold the belief that there exist multiple brothers who are unaware that their eternal obligations have elapsed and they are no longer in this world. Sometimes I think back to that first frigid Colorado winter when I became interested in Masonic lodges and their ghosts, as I point up to the lodge and narrate the stories connected to this magnificent historic structure. I was traveling in a big circle, going from Taos, New Mexico to Colorado Springs, then through Denver and back to New Mexico. I prefer both the paranormal and history when it comes to everything in my life. Old hotels with a reputation for having ghosts are one example. Of course, I also need to request the rooms that are well known for their activities. I will never forget the activity around their elevator and a few of the rooms, as well as my stay in an old hotel on the top floor that doubled as a morgue when the earth froze. But that's a tale for another day. During my tour of the old Masonic lodges in Colorado, I saw something unexpected. As a Mason myself, I was also allowed to visit some of the area's oldest lodges. some of which date back to the 1860s. I felt the history in the air as I strolled around the historic lodges. Recollections. I visited a lodge that included murals for each of the 3 degrees, which would provide the candidate with visual aids for the degree-related lectures. I was struck by the mural's intricate artwork, the room's coldness, and the plastered walls as I approached it. When I inquired about the age of the murals, the secretary replied that some of them went back to the lodge's inception in 1861, during the time that Kit Carson, one of the original members, served as master. As I looked about the lodge, my intuition began to tell me things, and I felt the past closing in on me. I inquired with the lodge secretary if he had ever seen anything out of the ordinary, or as I like to call it, wonky. I use this phrase loosely with people I don't know, so they can figure out what I mean. The secretary, an elderly guy, a longtime member of the lodge, furrowed his brow. He acknowledged that the building is indeed haunted by former members. I let him go into further detail. He described how, even though he was the only person in the building, he could hear the sounds of the lodge in action as he passed the locked door of the main lodge chamber, where meetings are held. He claimed to have heard the muffled gavel smash from the master and the voices of members repeating rituals written hundreds of years ago. When he opened the door, the room was dark and deserted. That afternoon, we had a lengthy conversation. When I explained what might be going on, he completely agreed and mentioned that he had heard of Masons in other lodges experiencing a lingering haunting. The psychic imprints and energies from the past permeate our reality. You have undoubtedly heard about residual hauntings, even if you are not familiar with them. It can also mean a specific person or thing that is visible at a given location and time. It never changes or makes an effort to interact with anyone who sees it. I call it a record skipping in time at times. It is not spirit. Neither can it alter its structure nor communicate. Speaking with the secretaries at various lodges in the vicinity, I discovered that some of them had experienced similar occurrences. The frequency of the reported hauntings captivated me. I don't find it absurd that a lingering haunting may occur in a lodge. A room can get a psychic impression from the thought of individuals, usually the same set of people, reciting rituals hundreds of times. Furthermore, the ritual typically has a religious undertone, which could give it an extra push in strength. I frequently tell people about hauntings that occur at churches, monasteries, and other sacred sites, which are occasionally hubs of paranormal activity. Over the years, I have also heard stories of other kinds of activities that take place in lodges. There have been reports of both poltergeist activity and spirits. Ultimately, every time a Mason is promoted to the 3rd degree, a death occurs. Even though it's a death metaphor, the lesson is nonetheless powerful and accurate. Many members also spent most of their adult lives attending the same lodge. It played a crucial role in their social lives. Maybe they would just feel more at ease staying with their brothers as specters than going on to the vast beyond. The members of many Masonic lodges accept hauntings, whether residual or active, and occasionally find solace in the idea that the past isn't gone. The Mason still has to pass at least one more degree, which is the degree of his death, and will adhere to the historical record. Did you like it? Tell us what you think of the video in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.